When I tore out our old kitchen cabinet, I found an envelope hidden inside the wall. My wife's handwriting said only one thing. If you ever find this, I'm sorry. Inside was a brass house key and a folded receipt from a storage facility dated 19 years earlier. The unit had been rented under my wife's maiden name, Evelyn Harper. The contract was still active. She had been paying for it every month since 2007. My name is Leonard Pierce. I was 69 when I found that envelope. Evelyn and I had recently moved into a smaller retirement house outside Louisville, Kentucky, and I was replacing an upper cabinet that had pulled away from the wall. We had been married 42 years. She often said secrets grew heavier than the truth, yet she had hidden a key inside our kitchen wall and maintained a storage unit for almost half our marriage. The receipt listed Unit 214 at Bluegrass Self-Storage in Jeffersonville, Indiana. One name was written on the back, Evan Rourke. I knew him. Evan had once been my most trusted employee at the commercial laundry plant I managed. He lost his job after machine failure shut down production and cost the company 2 major contracts. For years, I believed he had lied to me. Evelyn had insisted I was wrong. Now his name was connected to her secret storage unit. I did not ask her about it. I drove to Bluegrass Self-Storage with the key in my pocket. The manager checked the contract. Has my wife visited recently? Not in almost 4 years. Anyone else? He turned the page. One authorized visitor, Evan Rourke. The last entry was 2 months earlier. Evan was alive. Evelyn knew where he was, and she had never told me. Unit 214 contained no money, jewelry, or anything that explained why my wife had lied for 19 years. There were 12 gray boxes, each labeled by year. 2007 through 2025. A folding chair stood against one wall. Beside it was a wooden crate filled with notebooks. At first, the content seemed to belong to the plant failure that ended Evan's career. Old copies of the startup checklist, shift calendars, repair receipts, Evelyn's handwritten notes about the weeks after he resigned. But the deeper I went, the less the unit felt like a file room. It felt like a life someone had quietly refused to let disappear. There were birthday cards addressed to Evan and Christmas cards that had never been mailed. A grocery receipt folded inside a utility bill from a small apartment in New Albany. Job advertisements with Evelyn's handwriting in the margins. One notebook page read, Evan started warehouse job today. Still will not speak to Leonard. Below it, Evelyn had written, maybe that is fair. The next box contained a photograph of Evelyn and Evan sitting across from each other in a diner. The date on the back was our 35th wedding anniversary. I remembered that evening. Evelyn told me she had spent the afternoon helping an old church friend. She arrived home late, changed clothes without speaking, and cried in the bathroom with the faucet running. I believed she was grieving her sister. Now I was staring at proof she had been with Evan. At the bottom of the box was a sealed envelope addressed to me. Across the front, in Evan's handwriting, were the words, for Leonard, when Evelyn decides he can hear it. I held that letter for several minutes. Then I put it back unopened. I wanted the truth from my wife before I read the version she had stored away. When I returned home, Evelyn was unpacking dishes. I placed the brass key on the counter. She looked at it, then sat down. You found the envelope. Yes. How much did you see? Enough. That is not an answer. It is the one you gave me for 19 years. She lowered her eyes. I asked whether she and Evan had been romantically involved. No. The answer came so quickly I believed her. Relief arrived first. Then anger settled behind it. How often did you see him? At first, every few weeks. Later, a few times a year. You helped him with rent. Once. Groceries. When he needed them. Jobs. I helped him fill out applications. I leaned against the counter because sitting beside her felt too intimate. You built an entire relationship with a man I fired. I did. Behind my back. Yes. There was no defense in her voice. That made the silence after worse. Evelyn explained that Evan came to our house 3 months after the plant failure. I was away at a management meeting. He brought a carbon copy of the startup checklist and asked her to give it to me. She did not. Why? I thought he was angry and trying to shift blame. That sounds like what I thought. I know. Later, she compared his copy with the official form. They did not match. The official checklist showed Evan's initials beside the drain inspection. His carbon copy showed the square blank. Someone had added the initials later. You had proof. I had proof the forms were different. And you never showed me. Not then. 2 words. Temporary words. The kind that grow roots. Evelyn said she began meeting Evan because she believed I had judged him too quickly. There had been no affair. She had spent 19 years helping a man whose life I may have helped ruin. But the storage unit was more than charity. It held photographs, calendars, private notes, and years of her attention. I asked why the evidence belonged there instead of in our home. She looked toward the kitchen wall, where the cabinet had been. Read Evan's letter, she said. I returned to the storage unit the next morning. Evan's letter was short. Leonard, I did not sign the drain inspection. I did sign the startup sheet before everything was finished. You told me to. At first, I rejected the sentence. Then I remembered the morning before the failure. We were behind after a boiler shut down. The hospital route was calling about delayed linens. Evan was checking the washer when I told him to finish the paperwork and move to another line. He said, I have not run the drain test. I answered, mark the sheet. I will watch the startup. I meant the general certification at the bottom. Evan signed there while 2 inspection boxes remained blank. I intended to supervise the start myself. Then the regional director called me away. A younger mechanic, Cody Mills, started the washer. The drain stayed closed. Afterward, Evan's initials appeared beside the missing check. His letter continued. I should have refused to sign anything unfinished. I should have reported the Warren belt properly. I should not have waited for someone else to admit what happened. There was no dramatic confession, just an ordinary chain of bad decisions. Evan believed Cody copied his initials into the blank square after the flood because he thought Evan had completed the check. Cody had a new baby and little savings. Evan hesitated to accuse him. By the time he did, management believed he was blaming a younger employee to save himself. I remembered confronting him. A good supervisor owns his signature, I said. Evan answered, a good manager listens before deciding what the signature means. For 20 years, I remembered that as disrespect. Sitting alone in Unit 214, it sounded like the last honest thing he said to me. The storage boxes were not proof that Evelyn had preserved another love. They were proof she had preserved a version of Evan's life that my decision had nearly erased. Still, one question remained. Why had she protected that truth from me? Evelyn found Cody years later through a church bulletin. They met in a grocery store cafe. He first denied altering the checklist, then admitted filling in Evan's initials. He believed Evan had completed the inspection and forgotten to mark it. After the flood, he panicked and tried to make the paperwork look complete before supervisors arrived. When Evan accused him, Cody stayed silent. By then, telling the truth meant admitting he had altered a safety form after major failure. Evelyn recorded the conversation in a spiral notebook. Cody refused to sign a statement. He had rebuilt his life and wanted the incident left alone. Evan did not want to force him. He said fear would not make the truth cleaner. Evelyn told me. What did he want? For you to believe him. I looked around the unit. You had enough to make me question the report. Yes. Why keep all of this here? The first box had been temporary. Evelyn did not want the records in our house before deciding what to do. Then Evan lost his apartment and asked whether he could store some papers there. 1 box became 3, then 6. As he rebuilt his life, Evelyn kept job applications, references, and letters because Evan threw things away whenever shame caught up with him. The unit became an archive of a life he believed had been reduced to one form. That was the first major truth. Evelyn had not preserved a secret romance. She had preserved Evan's reputation when almost no one else believed it deserved saving. But compassion did not explain 19 years of deception. That answer was in the oldest notebook. On the first page, Evelyn had written, "If Leonard sees this now, he will lose everything." At the time of the plant failure, I was 6 months from qualifying for a larger pension tier. Our daughter had just started nursing school. Evelyn's mother had moved into assisted living, and we were helping with expenses. The promotion I received after the incident stabilized our finances. If the record reopened, I might lose that promotion or be disciplined for telling Evan to sign an incomplete form. Evelyn told herself she would wait until my pension vested. 6 months. Then she would show me the carbon copy. 6 months became a year. Evan found work and asked her not to reopen anything. He feared Hillcrest would accuse him of hiding Cody's involvement. I said, "You knew I would have tried to fix it." "Yes." "Then why not let me?" "Because you would have called everyone before anyone was ready." I started to argue. She stopped me. "You would have called management. Cody, Evan, you would have demanded one room, one explanation, one final answer." She knew me. Back then, I believed delay made problems worse. So I pushed. I called twice. I visited people who asked for space. I treated hesitation as evidence. Evelyn believed telling me would create a confrontation Evan did not want and Cody feared. At first, she protected our family. Then she protected Evan's recovery. Later, she protected herself. The storage payments continued every month, year after year. I asked why she hid the envelope behind the kitchen cabinet. When we decided to move, I knew that cabinet would eventually come out. You wanted me to find it. I wanted there to be a chance. After you died? Or after I lost my nerve completely? That was not courage. It was confession postponed until accident did the work. For 2 nights, Evelyn and I slept in the same bed without touching. In the morning, she made coffee for both of us and left mine beside the chair. Neither of us knew whether that small habit meant kindness, guilt, or simply 42 years of repetition. One question remained. Why had Evan entered the unit 2 months before I found the key? Evan lived in Lexington. He agreed to meet us at the storage facility. He was 63, gray-haired, heavier than I remembered, and careful with every sentence. When he entered Unit 214, he looked at the boxes before looking at me. "You read the letter?" "Yes." "Do you believe me?" I took longer than he deserved. "I believe you." He nodded. No relief dramatic enough to return the years. Evan had entered the unit 2 months earlier to remove one notebook. Cody had died the year before. Before his death, he sent Evelyn a handwritten admission. Evan took the original. He did not want Cody's family learning about him only through the worst thing he had done. "You protected him again," I said. "I protected them." Then I asked why Evan had never contacted me directly. "I did once." Evelyn became still. Evan left a message on our answering machine in 2008. He asked me to call. Evelyn erased it. Not because our finances were still at risk. Not because Evan was unstable. Because by then, the secret belonged to her too. She and Evan had become friends. He spoke to her about shame, work, and the years after Hillcrest. She spoke to him about guilt, fear, and the part of our marriage built on something she believed I could not bear to know. "I was not in love with him," she said, "but I gave him the part of my life I was afraid to bring home." The secret began as protection. Later, it became emotional intimacy. No romance, still intimacy. The storage unit was where Evelyn kept evidence. It was also where she kept a version of herself that had chosen against me and did not want to be judged for it. Evan accepted the arrangement. He resented me. He needed Evelyn's loyalty, and he preferred being believed by one person over risking rejection from me again. Nobody had preserved the silence alone. That was the second major truth. On the drive home, Evelyn reached toward my hand on the center console. I moved mine to the steering wheel. She did not try again. For several weeks, the storage unit sat between us even when we were nowhere near it. Evelyn began telling me where she was going. Grocery store. Pharmacy. Lunch with a friend. Sometimes I want to say she did not need permission. Sometimes I wanted every detail. Neither feeling made me proud. One evening, she stood in the kitchen holding 2 mugs. Do you want coffee? Yes. She placed mine down and remained standing. I do not expect you to forgive me quickly. I do not know what quickly means after 19 years. She nodded. I should have told you. You should have let Evan leave the message. Yes. You should have trusted me enough to fail on my own. Her eyes filled. Yes. We entered counseling after we moved. Trust became specific. I trusted Evelyn's compassion. I no longer trusted her instinct to protect people by controlling what they knew. She accepted that without asking me to soften it. Evan remained important, but he did not become part of our daily life. He and I exchanged telephone numbers. We spoke twice that year, once about the plant, once about a bakery conveyor he was repairing. Neither conversation lasted long. I wrote him a statement saying the old inspection record did not fairly describe his actions and that I had instructed him to sign before the startup was complete. It was not a legal victory. It did not restore his job. It was only my name beneath a truth I should have considered years earlier. The three of us later opened every box. Nothing inside was sensational. Calendars led into job clippings. Holiday cards rested beside photographs from ordinary lunches. A notebook recorded the day Evan returned to equipment maintenance after years of avoiding machines. One entry said, "Leonard would understand why this matters." Evan never sent it to me. When I asked why, he said, "Wanting you to know is not the same as being willing to call." That sentence applied to all three of us. The storage unit remained open while we decided what belonged to whom. For 19 years, Evelyn had paid to keep the past in one place. Closing it would not make the past smaller. It would only bring everything home. We emptied Unit 214 in early spring. Evan took his letters, photographs, and employment papers. I kept the carbon copy and the statement I wrote for him. Evelyn kept the first notebook, the one where she had written that telling me might cost us everything. Most of the remaining papers were shredded with Evan's permission. The folding chair went to a thrift store. The gray boxes went into recycling. When the unit was empty, it looked smaller than I expected. Concrete floor, metal walls, one bare bulb. 19 years of secrecy had required less space than a walk-in closet. The manager gave us a closure form. Evelyn signed first, then Evan, then me. Before locking the unit, I took the brass house key from the envelope I had found behind the cabinet. It had opened the side door of our old Louisville house. Evelyn used it when she came home late and did not want to wake me. For years, that key entered our home while the truth remained somewhere else. I placed it back inside the envelope. If you ever find this, I'm sorry. For a moment, I sat on the concrete floor. Evelyn looked at me. You're leaving it? No. I picked it up and slipped it into my coat pocket. We closed the metal door. I turned the storage key and heard the lock catch. Evan left first. He raised one hand without looking back. Evelyn and I walked to the car together. She did not reach for my hand. I did not offer it. At home, I hung the old brass key beside the kitchen door. It opens nothing now. The envelope rests in the drawer below it. Some evenings, Evelyn and I sit at the small table without speaking much. She reads. I sort the mail. When one of us leaves a room, we say where we are going. The other night, I touched the key and said, I still wish you had told me. Evelyn answered, I still wish I'd been brave enough. Then she turned off the kitchen light. The old brass key remained beside the door, catching a thin strip of light from a hallway.